All right, let's get right into this. We're talking about a gospel that was lost for centuries, a powerful text, probably written by a woman, that only exists today in a few tiny fragments. And what it says, well, it was so radical, so potentially dangerous, that it might have been intentionally buried. This is the story of the Gospel of Mary. So, right off the bat, we're hit with a mystery. The very first thing you notice about this gospel is that the beginning is gone. The story is incomplete before it even starts, which, immediately makes you ask, what could have been so threatening that someone way back in history felt they had to literally rip the first pages out? That is the central question we're going to dig into. It's like a detective story, and we're going to piece together the clues this lost gospel left behind. To even begin to crack this case, we have to start with the actual physical evidence. These scraps of ancient paper that have somehow, against all odds, survived for nearly 2,000 years. Think about this. Everything we know, our entire understanding of this gospel, comes down to just 3 manuscript fragments. That's it. 3 fragile links to a completely different side of history. And the way we found them is a story in itself. The biggest piece, a version in the Coptic language, turned up in Cairo back in 1896. But then, later, scholars found 2 way older fragments written in Greek, both from the 3rd century. And the fact that it was being copied and translated into different languages, that's a huge clue. It tells us this wasn't some obscure text. It was important, and it was spreading. And look, this isn't just wild speculation. This is the result of some serious, painstaking academic work. For decades, experts have been analyzing these fragments, comparing the languages, and figuring out where this text fits into the bigger picture of early Christianity. So our whole investigation is built on a really solid foundation. Now here's where the detective work gets really cool. If you have 2 separate copies from the early 2000s, that means the original text they were copied from has to be even older, right? So that pushes the Gospel of Mary's creation back into the 2nd century, putting it in the exact same time period as a lot of other really foundational Christian texts. Which, of course, leads to the million-dollar question. The manuscript is called the Gospel of Mary, but it never actually says which Mary. So, how can we possibly know? Well, the evidence overwhelmingly points to one person, Mary Magdalene. And here's why. First, she's shown arguing with the Apostle Peter, which is a big theme in other Gospels from that era that feature her. Second, she's the one who's seen the resurrected Savior. That perfectly mirrors her role in the Gospel of John. And finally, and this is a big one, the text says the Savior loved her more than us, more than the other disciples. That's a very specific, unique status that other texts, like the Gospel of Philip, also give to Magdalene. Okay, so we have an idea of the who and the when, but now let's get to the real heart of it. What did this gospel actually say? What was this secret wisdom that made it so unique and maybe so dangerous? The text just throws us right into the deep end. Mary asks this incredibly deep philosophical question. It's not about rules or what to do. It's about the very nature of perception. How do we really see things? And the answer he starts to give is, well, it's mind-bending. It's not the soul, it's not the spirit, it's the mind, which is somewhere between them. But just as we're leaning in to get the rest, bam, the manuscript breaks off. 4 more pages are just gone. It's an ancient cliffhanger. Now, we have to be clear. When the text says mind, it's not talking about your thinking brain. The original Greek word is nous. A better way to think of it is as the eye of the heart. It's this deep, intuitive form of perception, a way of knowing that comes directly from inside you. And this idea of nous completely flips the script on what a spiritual journey is supposed to look like. We usually think of it as an ascent, right? A journey upward to some faraway heaven. This gospel says no, that's not it. The real journey is a descent, inward, into your own heart. The gospel even gives you a kind of roadmap for this inner journey, but it's not an easy one. It says the soul has to confront and overcome these 7 powers. And these aren't demons out there somewhere. They're internal states of being, things like ignorance, desire, wrath. They're parts of yourself that you have to face to be truly free. So you can imagine, Mary shares this incredibly profound, radical teaching with the other apostles. And their reaction? Well, that's where the real fireworks happen. They're just totally thrown. You have to remember, they are grieving, they're afraid, And now Mary comes along with this teaching, a secret revelation just for her. And it doesn't sit right with them at all. They pretty much immediately challenge her. And it's Peter who just lays it all out on the table. His objection is crystal clear. He's saying, wait a second, you're telling us he spoke privately with a woman instead of with us, and now we're supposed to just turn around and listen to her? It's a direct challenge to her authority and to her gender.
And it's not just Peter. Another apostle, Andrew, chimes in and says her teachings sound like strange ideas. So you can see the conflict wasn't just about who should be in charge. It was also about the ideas themselves. This inward-looking path was just too radical for them.
But then, just when it seems like she's being shut down, the disciple Levi steps up to defend her. He looks right at Peter and says, "Peter, you have always been hot-tempered." And then he delivers the killer blow. He says, if the Savior made her worthy, who are you to reject her? He reminds them all that the Savior loved her more than them. It just ends the argument right there. So Levi's defense settles things for the moment, and they all go off to preach. But that core conflict, that dramatic scene, leaves us with a really powerful final message. When you really boil it all down, here's the ultimate takeaway. The Gospel of Mary is making a revolutionary claim that true spiritual authority doesn't come from an institution. It doesn't come from your rank as an apostle. It doesn't come from anyone else. It comes from the vision within your own heart. True authority is internal. And that leaves us with a pretty big question to think about. What would our world be like if we valued that kind of inner sight as much as we value external proof? The Gospel of Mary might be in pieces, but the challenge it presents, to look inside for what is real, is as complete and as revolutionary as ever.